It is absolutely normal and is absolutely okay. I get nervous too, usually before every workshop. When I meet new people, when I get on stage, all the things that people believe should be the most normal thing in the world for me, I do get nervous.
So welcome to the second episode of To Be Discussed, and today we're super happy to once again have a wonderful guest with us in the Brick Tower, who's here for a workshop today, and now is also our guest in the TBD podcast. And he can tell us a lot about how to present and how to communicate. So welcome to Be Discussed, Nils Michaelis.
Thank you very much.
Really
Thank you very much for having me.
And so let's start in this case with a little game for your introduction.
Yes.
So to show our viewers, to illustrate a little bit of the power of persuasive communication and the right appearance and nonverbal communication. Maybe you can introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you're doing, and do it in two different ways so that our viewers get an impression of persuasive communication and nonverbal communication.
Okay. So intro number one would be, my name is Niels, and I am a trainer and coach for, like we said, for persuasiveness and communication, and I'm more or less looking to improve and help and make sure that people enjoy and have fun communicating.
That was number one.
That was number
now
one.
We're excited for number two.
The second intro would be, welcome, my name is Nils Michaelis. I'm a communications trainer and coach, and I love helping people enjoy being on stage, enjoy talking in front of people, and just having fun, following through with the passion to engage with the audience and to make sure that we engage with our listeners, to be persuasive and to use everything that we have with us in terms of how we communicate to make the most of our message.
Okay, I think now everybody can see crystal clear the huge difference. You already told that you're a communication coach, and
yes.
I looked at your LinkedIn profile to inform myself a little bit about you as our guest, and saw that your career hasn't been really entirely straightforward. No. So can you tell a little bit, how did you become a coach for communication and presentation techniques, and what do you bring to the table from your career before?
I will try to keep it short, because otherwise I think we'd switch from coffee to a bottle of wine in about 2 to 3 hours. But I started out wanting to become a pilot. That's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to become a pilot. I studied in the United States, and my passion along the way while studying business was owning and running a restaurant, and doing that in Manhattan, in New York City. So that's where it all started. And then it took a couple turns of not having the chance to stay in the US, trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do, being back in Germany. And I tried a few different careers, to be honest, trying to find my passion, which of course doesn't make for the best looking resume. However, I had the opportunity to figure out what it is that I like to do and what it is that I enjoy. And I was fortunate enough to have a lot of responsibilities for other people. So I always had teams, leading teams from the size of 10 to 15 people to, I think the largest team was roughly a little over 100 people. And I understood that while I was a lot of times, most of the time, not the expert for something, it was my responsibility to keep everybody moving forward, to have everybody be engaged, be motivated, and have fun at work. That was my biggest responsibility, and communication was the key to make all of that happen. Because you deal with so many different personalities, and how do you get a good connection to each and all of them? So it took a couple different projects until I got to the point where I realized that I enjoyed working these change management projects that I was on, but I really enjoyed working with people. I really enjoyed it when they took the next step forward, whether that was in the career with us, with my current project, or even outside of it. But helping them develop, helping them to take the next step, that is what I really enjoyed. That's what I wanted to do full time. So that's how I then pivoted into more of a trainer role. And I took a position with a training company, learned what it takes and means to deduct a good training. And then I moved into more of a coaching role, got my coaching certification with the International Coaching Federation, and made sure that I was capable of really helping somebody reach their full potential. For as wonderful as that sounds, that's really what I aim for. And with communication, I think we can do so much that we can give other people and take responsibility for who we are.
It's amazing.
Shortcut. I tried.
It's a cool story, definitely. And so you really came around and seen a little bit of the world and different environments. So this probably really helps you nowadays. And so today you are also working a lot with startups and with founders. So what are the special challenges that founders have in terms of communication, but also presentation techniques and skills compared to, let's say, employees in corporates?
I think one of the most challenging one, or there's two that I look at. One is channeling that passion that they have for the topic that they're working on. And then a lot of times, especially with founders, they're used to having to manage everything, right? When they grow and there's more people joining the team, and then they can delegate certain responsibilities, they learn to focus on just one thing. So a lot of times it's just they need to be generalists and know everything, a little bit of everything. And in terms of their communication, that's a lot of times what happens too. It's not precise enough what they want to convey in terms of their message. And it goes into all kinds of directions. So how do I channel, on the one hand, the passion that I have for the topic, and still make my message fit to the listener's understanding, so that we really know what we're both talking about. Those are the biggest challenges, which are good challenges, which is a lot of fun because the energy is there. They want to bring out their message. And then, of course, you sometimes have founders that have a wonderful vision, but just don't feel as comfortable speaking about it. And there it's just bringing that to life. That's maybe then the third smaller challenge to work on.
Okay. And so founders often also deal with very complex issues. So AI, software engineering, deep tech, you name it.
All kinds of things that I don't know anything about.
Me neither. And as like real tech experts, they know that subject better than anybody else, at least the two of us, of course. But how can they make sure that they communicate it in a way that everybody like understands them, understands their solution, and what is important when communicating these complex topics?
Gaining clarity over my own thoughts. And that sometimes sounds simpler than it really is, but it is understanding, okay, when I communicate, when I try to convince you of an idea, let's take a pitch, for example, what is my goal? So what do I want to convey? What do I want to move you towards? What's supposed to be happening with you, logically, emotionally, as you're listening to me? And then once I figure that out, what I want to be happening and what I want to have happened afterwards, and then switching towards, it's not about me, it's about you. So understanding, where are you coming from? What do you know about the topic? What motivates you? Why are you listening to me? What is relevant to you? Answering all these questions about you are going to help me understand what I need to answer and how I can relate to achieve my goal. So I need to be very clear about these things. And a lot of times, especially, and I love working in tech in general because it is very complex topics. Well, in general, I have to say, I love working in topics that I really don't have any expertise in because it is new to me, I can learn a lot, and I need to force them to make it simple. And it is difficult to make things simple. It's the most challenging thing for a lot of people that know a lot. It's the hardest thing to do. Once you achieve that, it becomes digestible for the other person. And that is what we need to work on.
So what are the strategies? How can you simplify a very, very complex issue, a topic? What are the steps?
I try to look at 3 steps with the team before we even go into communication. So part of the preparation is not even looking at a pitch deck, slide decks, all that stuff is for way, way later. So first is the idea of the goal. What do I want to get accomplished? What is that one point that needs to stick with the other person when we leave that conversation? That's the first point. Then the second point, who is my audience? Who am I talking to? What do they know? Like I said, what's their motivation? All kinds of questions that you can ask yourself about the other person that are going to help you make that connection between your message and what is relevant to them. And that's the third part, relevance. What does relevance mean? First is the question of proximity. What does it have to do with you? If I can't answer that, it doesn't pertain to you. And the second one is value. What's the benefit for you? What do you get out of it? So I need to make sure that I answer these 2 questions. And once I get those, what is my goal? Who am I talking to? And how do I reach them? And how do I make my message relevant to them? I will understand that a lot of my arguments are irrelevant and others are even more important. And those are the ones that I want to focus on. And that's how we start breaking things down. Then we can start working with Post-its, organize it. I use a message map to work with where you just have the goal, the 3 major areas of theses that I need to communicate to convince somebody, and what do I need to incorporate to get that involved. So that's and then we have a part of a preparation where we can later on go into a slide deck, for example.
Okay. Besides like these issues that founders are communicating about, like founders also find themselves in a situation that they are in management positions for the first time in many cases, and have responsibility also for employees, for a growing team in the best case. So this can also bring challenges, right? And so when it comes to gaining trust also from employees who are maybe more experienced than you are as a founder. So what is important here to gain trust and to convince all the team to follow and to succeed?
I think one of the major areas to look at is the idea of psychological safety. Or in other words, what more and more companies I feel like are talking about is the idea of having a good culture of it being okay to fail and making mistakes. And being able to talk about it openly, receiving good feedback, clear feedback, constructive as well as positive. So if you yourself communicate openly, clearly, you show vulnerability, you're transparent. And I'm not saying transparent in terms of you don't need to share everything, but if it pertains to somebody else in the team or in the company, talk about it openly. Be open about difficult times and what it means, that you don't always have to have the answer yourself either. And that's a feeling that is okay, because otherwise they may feel in a role, your team, that they always need to have the answers. So there's a lot we can do with our communication, how to build that trust through psychological safety, so that we feel okay to talk about our desires and dreams and hopes on the one hand, but also on what we fear, what doesn't let us sleep at night as well.
Do you think that many founders, or many, let's say in general, people in management positions avoid this because they don't want to seem that they are weak or something, show their weakness or something? That is this an issue? At
least that's still sticking with a lot of people, and I feel like sometimes it depends on the work culture that we encountered. Let's call it growing up into our professional career. How did other people lead us? And then it's important to be able to reflect on how people treated us, and do we also want to be seen as a leader that same way, or do we want to do things differently? Are we willing to try out? Is it okay to be the founder, CEO of a company, whatever the title may be, and say, hey, I don't know? And that takes a lot of courage. It feels uncomfortable, but I believe it is the step in the right direction, and shows a lot in terms of your character and integrity if you're willing to make that step and open up. So I believe to see a shift into that direction. COVID forced it on us a little bit, but even before then, there was a shift in making sure what is a good culture.
The new part of the job as a founder, besides the one we spoke about, is also that the job is including having uncomfortable situations or situations you haven't had before, conversations, for example. Let's, for example, say you have for the first time to give critical feedback to an employee, or you have to negotiate with a partner, with an investor. So what are strategies, what are techniques to do that, and without jeopardizing a good relationship with the employee, with the partner, with the investor?
I think it is important that when you communicate, that there's a difference between being tough and very straight with the matter and still warm and empathetic with the person. So we can differentiate those. A lot of times in communication that those things seem to be intertwined, which they aren't. But it means I can very much talk objectively about the situation without having to offend or attack you. So in terms of feedback, the way to go about it, if you're asking me, is first of all, make sure that both parties are capable of dealing with that situation right now. So I should ask you if it's okay to give you some feedback or have a conversation that may be challenging. So it's not you running home because you want to see family and all of a sudden I'm like, hey, just want to tell you something real quick. So that's the first part. Then let's talk about the situation first, and let me be very objective on what I encountered, what I saw, what I witnessed, so you understand the situation that we're talking about. And then I can talk about the effect that it has on me, so you have a better understanding of what it is doing with me. The wonderful thing here is I'm not putting blame on you. I'm just saying, listen, this is the situation, this is exactly what happened. Like the idea of coming too late. You're always late. Difficult, because it may have been on time one time, and then my argument doesn't hold. But if I say, listen, that meeting, you came at that time, the other meeting, and I have specific ideas, when you do that, that makes me feel like you don't value my time, or my time is not being valued. So now we have a situation we can look at, you understand what it does to me, and then we can talk about it together, rather than you having to defend your behavior. And then we get into the final step, and we can have a discussion about it, or I have a suggestion. And I think that is very important too, when we have difficult conversations, that there are emotions that arise, and when these emotions arise, it doesn't help to skip into a solution, but let's deal with the person first, let's deal with the emotions, and then we can rationally look into other options. Those two ideas on how we give feedback and how we deal with emotions help to strengthen the relationship and still be very honest with the situation. Because some situations are shitty and we can't afford to keep them that way, and we need to do something about it. But I still don't want to hurt the relationship that we have.
So what about the negotiations on the other hand? When you also want to make your position clear, get a good deal for your company, like achieve the best solution for your company, get the best results. But on the other hand, also you want to build a long-term relationship with a partner, with an investor. So how to solve this conflict and find a good way?
Tough one. And I'm no negotiations specialist. I mean, there are experts out there. You have experts for that topic that are probably much better to comment on that. For me, it is the idea, which I loved from the book, The Harvard Method, in understanding what are win-win situations. Instead of sticking to positions, understand what are the interests around these positions that make me take that position. Because there's one position and another position, but the interests, they may intersect. And if we talk about those, we find common ground, that really can be a win-win situation. So to me, in negotiations, the most important thing is to listen, to value the other person, to really understand what's driving them. And then we have the chance that we can find common ground, and at the same time, if I listen to you, you will be more inclined to listen to me as well. So negotiations, listening.
Okay. Let's talk about authenticity. Also a big word.
Yes, yeah. Big word in my workshops too, yeah. Yeah.
So, like, how important is it really to be authentic, like on stage, and to what extent do you also take on a role on stage? And let's say I'm not the super outgoing person, not super self-confident, but now I'm in this role and I need to be on stage, and how can I deal with it? And is it really always true to be authentic, or is it a rumor and you can also take on a role sometimes?
It's one of my favorite topics to talk about, because I believe it is important to be inauthentic at times, to not be authentic.
Okay.
And the reason for that is, let's say I didn't want to be here right now. I really didn't feel like having this interview, talking to you. That attitude of mine may be noticeable through different behaviors in terms of my body language, the way I speak. I may be sitting here differently, cutting you short, almost coming off as disengaged, maybe even disrespectful. But that does not help me. This is a wonderful opportunity. And by the way, I'm really, really happy to be here, right? I just wanted to note that at that point. But if I wasn't, let's just say I didn't sleep last night. My dog kept me up all night, so I didn't sleep, and now I'm very tired. Get into the role of still being the Niels that I can be, that is having fun, that wants to be a good example for the topics that I can present. I'm being given an opportunity here to talk about the things that I absolutely love. So use it. So I need to understand, what does it mean now to not be authentic, because authentic would be, I don't want to be here. So, okay, put on a smile, have a different posture, different body language, smile a little more and be engaging. But I need to go as far as really believing into that, so it doesn't come off as acted almost. And that's where this discussion comes into play, because a lot of people, especially when we talk about nonverbal communication, it's like, well, now you're teaching me all these things, and now we all look like robots because we all do the same thing. And that's not true. It's just at the beginning it feels uncomfortable because it's unusual. You're not used to it yet. The more you get used to it, you understand how nonverbal communication can really help you, and you start to make that who you are. And then all of a sudden we're back to being authentic. You just have a bigger repertoire of how you can interact with somebody. And that's why I believe this idea of make sure you stay true to yourself, be authentic. For a lot of people, that can be an excuse to not wanting to improve. So therefore, learn to be inauthentic, learn to go against what feels comfortable, and then what it means to be authentic can be a lot more at the end of the day.
Okay, interesting. Another thing, another topic we all know about, at least I know, because a step in front of the camera also has to do with nervousness.
Yeah.
And so, and many people know when they have to go on stage, when they have to present, pitch their business, etc. So, how to deal with nervousness? What are your tips, and how to deal with it?
So there's a lot we can do, and I think the most important thing to understand is it is absolutely normal and is absolutely okay. I get nervous too, usually before every workshop. When I meet new people, when I get on stage, all the things that people believe should be the most normal thing in the world for me, I do get nervous. The thing is, interpret it as nervousness. It's a lot of energy, adrenaline rises, we're more attentive. I try not to, or I don't call it nervousness. It's just I understand what's happening in my body and I try to use that energy. And you probably have made that experience, as many people who are watching this have had that experience as well. You start first 2-3 sentences and all of a sudden that nervousness is gone because you're getting used to that situation. So understand that that's happening and understand how to deal with it. For some, it's getting on stage, just smiling at everybody, taking a deep breath, breathe out, and then start talking. No need to just take all that energy and just go. Just let it dissipate. You can use a lot of hand gestures to let the energy flow without it being too much. You can, if it's real critical, I like using as one of the coaching tools that we have, using with visualizing it. Meaning, think of the last talk, presentation, pitch that you had where it went really well. You had great feedback. And go back into that situation, feel it, feel that energy. And the wonderful thing is if you close your eyes and you imagine something, the brain, there's no difference between actually seeing the cup, for example, or closing my eyes and imagining the cup. Same regions in my brain light up. So I can make myself go through that same situation. And I try to link that up with that nervousness before a presentation. We can also go Tony Robbins style and do some jumping jacks, some push-ups to let that energy go before we then get out stage. So see what works best for you. There are wonderful opportunities or possibilities on how to deal with it. Some take a little longer, but it is until you're comfortable, feel comfortable.
Okay. Another question. I mean, here we at Brick have this wonderful mission of building a livable future. Mm-hmm. And so why is persuasive communication and presentation like good skills in these two topics? Why is that an important condition, let's say, for a livable future? How's this? Is there a connection?
Absolutely, because how else are people going to follow or even listen to that wonderful vision that you have? That's the thing. Like, I believe that there are people out there that have wonderful dreams, wonderful ideas that can become reality, but they need others to listen to them. They need others to follow those ideas. They need to be given the chance to do something about it. So if you can't win people for yourself and for your ideas, you may be missing out on too many opportunities. So it's a fantastic skill to be learned that's going to make the difference between your idea being proceeded with or somebody else's idea. Because at the end of the day, people buy from people. We need that trust to go with somebody, to support somebody. And that's what communication is all about.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Niels.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And then I would say we wrap it up with 3 final questions. All right. Like quick questions with on-point answers.
Okay. Okay.
First question is, what does a startup or a founder need to be successful regarding to communication, presentation, pitches?
Clarity.
That's it. Do we have an insider tip, something that not every communication coach would tell us?
It's a skill to be learned, and it is important to have fun with it, to enjoy it.
What can a founder do immediately? What are the first steps now to improve my communication or presentation skills?
Record yourself. Make sure you have a video of yourself where you can see how you interact, how you use body language, how you sound, what filler words you use, how you come across, how are you being perceived. Taking a video of yourself, analyzing it, most important thing you can do.
Perfect. Is there anything else?
All right.
Okay.
Very cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Super cool.